8:02 on a Sunday morning. I'm West 2 First Warning meteorologist Eric Burris. This is Coffee Talk. We get together 7 days a week to chat about what's going on in the world of weather. And on a day like today, as you can see in the bottom corner, we're tracking rains moving through central Florida, but we're also tracking the threat for strong to severe storms moving our direction. So it's going to be kind of an action-packed coffee talk, so to speak. Here's a live look outside at the Orlando International Airport Tower Cam and our Tower Cam network there. Let me take you down to the tourist district. Did just have a good downpour move through Epcot and Disney, and of course, all of the full marathoners unfortunately had to deal with that. Tavares, let's check out, see what's doing by you. Oh, it's looking pretty. And yeah, basically across all of Central Florida, we're looking better and better. Did have some rains move through Daytona Beach a bit ago. Because of that rain, have to check out the flight board, and whoa, we've already got some issues. Most flights are on time, but there are delays and there are flight cancellations. So something to consider, my friends, if your travel plans take you out and about today. Here's First Warning live Doppler radar. Let's start in the metro area, and I'll just kind of show you the heaviest stuff is now east of the metro. Bithlow, Christmas, Wedgefield, for example, Lake Hart, Lake Mary Jane. Down to near the Orlando International Airport, there's Narcoossee Road, Lake Nona Boulevard, Hunters Creek, Kissimmee, Celebration, it's exiting. So it's clearing out of downtown Orlando, and it's clearing out of the tourist district. But as the live radar sweeps on through, it's still raining in parts of heavily populated areas, we'll say. Temperatures out the door, 50s and 60s. Here's our 12-hour forecast, okay? Not a bad one. We'll clear out the rains. You know what? Because we've got that little inset box. Let me pop this one up. We'll clear out the rains later this morning and this afternoon. Actually looks to be pretty nice. Mostly cloudy skies today. It's going to be a cooler afternoon than yesterday. Yesterday's temperatures brought us into the 70s. Today, we will stay in the 60s. Now, we've got a pretty vibrant weather pattern here, so let's kind of get an idea of what's happening, all right? Today, high pressure dominating us, absolutely beautiful. But for tomorrow, that area of high pressure starts to scoot away, and warm, moist air feeding and colliding with cool, dry air, and as is such, there you go. A storm system is born. This is going to be a storm system that will more than likely impact Central Florida in a fairly inclement way. So here we are the next couple of days, not looking bad. Today, tomorrow, we're fine. I mean, some rain, not a problem. But come Tuesday, we're calling Tuesday a first warning weather day because of this threat for strong to severe storms. Now, in terms of timeline, it's going to be late day, so most of your plans are going to be doing just fine. But already the Storm Prediction Center has placed Central Florida, just as I expected, under a level 2 threat for scattered strong to severe storms. And when they talk about the impacts, it's going to be heavy downpours, but severe wind gusts, and not only tornadoes, but the potential is there for strong tornadoes, okay? This is not one of those scenarios you see all the time, so it's definitely El Nino fed, okay? Let's take a look at our Futurecast model and get an idea of the timing of this. And I'm just going to run it right through. It's easier to do that than to try and skip on through. So this afternoon, there are your clouds. Tonight, keeping the clouds around. Tomorrow, clouds, maybe a spring. You see a couple of showers. And there's 5 p.m. A few showers late in the day tomorrow. Not a big deal at all. But come Tuesday, we'll wake up in the morning to comfortably, we'll even say it's a warm start to the day. Through the day Tuesday, we're good. Like there's 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday. Futurecast showing clouds, but top left corner is really what has our attention, okay? 2, 3 o'clock, that's when we're going to start to see the threat for strong to severe storms marching in our direction. 4 o'clock, there's that squall line. We definitely have to watch. It's going to come in perhaps like a lion, unfortunately. It's going to be the kind of feeding atmospherically. We call it a QLCS. Essentially, it's a squall line, a very powerful line of storms. So our northwestern areas around 4 o'clock or so, 5 o'clock starting to work into the metro, 5:30, 6 o'clock working into the metro, 7, 8 o'clock getting into Brevard County, and clearing our area just thereafter, okay? So timeline is exactly that, 2 to 5, I'm thinking, in our northern areas, right through the evening commute, right through dinner time in the metro, then from about dinner time to bedtime in our southeastern communities. But why is there, well, I guess I should preface this by saying the atmospheric dynamics are there more so for Tuesday than what we saw yesterday. Now, we know yesterday was not severe in our area. The dynamics were better in South Florida, and there were already a couple of tornadoes. We saw them on film, for goodness sake. And if you didn't see that, you can scroll through my feed and go find it. I posted a video on both my Twitter page and on my Facebook page. Okay? Not the most fun stuff. We have all the elements, it looks like, come Tuesday afternoon for severe weather. One of them, what we were missing yesterday in our area, was instability. And one thing that gives instability easily is heating. All right, because this is coming later in the day, look at Tuesday's high temperatures, upper 70s, lower 80s. So we're absolutely going to get into the instability. And I showed this kind of a product on my social channels earlier, and I wanted to share it again. This is a model plot, okay? This is basically a model plot for, and it's like a little big, so let me try and resize this down just a little bit, okay? All right, that looks a little bit better there, right? Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Okay, so this is basically the GFS model looking at the atmosphere for Tuesday afternoon. And I picked Ocala because it's going to be our first area, or one of our first areas to see this stronger weather. Okay, so first thing, top left corner, and I'll make it big so that I can try and not oversimplify, because no part of this is oversimplified. But this is a skew-T diagram, okay? Atmospheric, think of it as, pretend you're lifting a weather balloon up in the air, okay? So this is looking, the green line is dew point, the red line is temperature. And this is basic, it's not a home run, but it's kind of, we call it the field goal, or the weather term is the loaded gun scenario. Like, you've got some dry air upstairs, you've got the atmosphere ripened. Another thing that I want you to notice on the right side, okay, on the right side of this, which I'm kind of highlighting here, those white barbs are wind direction. The bottom of this is the surface of the is the surface of the Earth. The higher you go, the higher in the atmosphere. Those wind barbs are the direction of winds, and I want you to notice the red, green, and yellow. That's wind speeds with height. So notice we actually get to have a pretty decent wind gusts. You know, we're already talking 50-knot winds at like 900 millibars, which is not high above our heads. So there's a lot of wind expected to be just above the surface. You're going to look up and see those clouds screaming more than likely. They're going to be moving very, very quickly. So atmospherically, we've got some wind and some turning with height. Another way to see the turning with height is using a hodograph, okay? The oversimplified way is the storm slinky. Think of the red as the surface, and you see how, think of this as being in space looking straight down at Ocala. And if you were to let a balloon go, it would kind of move around in that shape, that kind of semicircle shape. That means that the winds are turning with height, a little twisting of the winds with height, okay? So that's interesting, right? That's another indicator of severe weather. SARS is something we haven't really talked much about in analyzation, but it's kind of interesting. Basically, it is the sounding analog system, our system, I don't know. Essentially, what it does is it looks at previous severe weather days with situations like this, and there are several examples where it gave tornadoes. Okay, it's not looking like a big hail event. So there's not a lot of analogs. Obviously, there's like 6 loose matches, but nothing crazy. But, not a significant hail event, but it definitely looks like we've seen supercell indicators and tornado indicators. So this is absolutely lining up that way. And then there's one other thing that we've not really much discussed, but based on some of your severe weather indicators, okay? The reason that it's got the National Weather Service's eye particularly, and the reason that they're mentioning strong tornadoes is the STP shear, okay? So what this does is this looks at the atmosphere and says, all right, based on this, where are we at for tornadoes? So that line between 1 and 2 on the graph is our baseline, all right? So we are definitely not, you see where it says not, I'm going from right to left here. Non-tornado, no, we're above that. We're at like the 75 percentile for an EF0. We're almost at the 50 percentile for EF1. We're almost at 50 percentile for EF2, and we're at like the 25 percentile for EF3. So in other words, the atmosphere is giving support for that kind of wind shear, for that kind of lift, for that kind of spin. EF1, EF2 type tornadoes, even, in range of an EF3, which for Florida is, this is a pretty significant shear element. This is a pretty significant kind of atmosphere, right? This is, I shared, I don't know if it was this exact run, this is just the latest run, but I shared this on my social, and I know that it's not easy to read, but it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to give us a ton of valuable information. And this is just so that you understand, this is the kind of stuff that meteorologists look at when kind of trying to talk to you about severe weather. And there, it's easy to hype severe weather. It's easy to freak out, but, it's important to get information based on that. So that's kind of the overall setup. You see where it says possible hazard type on the right, and it says TOR. That's looking at a lot of different parameters put together. But yeah, it's definitely looking like a tornado kind of event for Central Florida, which is why the Storm Prediction Center has put us under that level 2 out of 5 risk, or scattered risk if you want to get all technical, for strong to severe storms come Tuesday afternoon or evening. So that's where we're at, my friends. I just threw a lot of information at you. Now, I'm pulling my head out of the data. Let's chat questions that you may have, that sort of thing, okay? Janet says, I think I'm finally learning this graphic. And if it's taking you a while, do not feel less than. It's not an easy thing. The sounding data, that is the basis of meteorology school. This is a lot of our meteorology school. And by the way, you can get that data. It's free of charge. I'm not generating it myself. Pivotalweather.com. You pull up the model and you can literally click on different spots. And in a setup like this, I like to start with Ocala because that's the first spot that's going to have the severe weather moving in. And then as it moves down and down and down, it'll start to weaken more than likely. But yeah, Janet, if you're finally learning it, then I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Valerie, is it declared a PDS? No, we're not even there yet to the point where the National Weather Service would be making those calls. And we'll have to see how it plays out. It's a little early for that. Yeah. All right. Jenny says, note to self, probably going to have high school soccer game canceled for my daughter on Tuesday. I would say yes. Afternoon plans are definitely going to be in jeopardy. Yukon says, I like maps and graphics better. This is a bit overwhelming for me. Well, and the reality is that I try to stick to maps and graphics. But in a severe weather kind of setup, we're going to get in a little deeper. That's what we do. And that's the beauty of Coffee Talk Yukon, is it's okay to be a little overwhelming, but I'm just trying to help you understand that way. Even if you don't understand that graphic, at least you'll know, oh, okay, so that's the element there, that's the element there, that's the element there, right? All right. Jennifer, can you explain the slinky? It's fun looking. All it is if you let a balloon go, as it goes up in the atmosphere, it's kind of the direction it would go based on winds up into the atmosphere. Okay, so that's where we're at. A level 2 out of 5 risk for strong to severe storms. I think that not only severe winds and tornadoes, but could have a strong tornado. The Storm Prediction Center, National Weather Service is even mentioning that, all right? So there's your timeline for the worst of the weather, all right? And yes, we are calling Tuesday already. I don't like to do it, just so that you know. It's not my favorite thing. But we are calling it a first warning weather day because of that afternoon time frame. Okay? All right. Questions, comments, concerns about it. That's our next big thing. Sonia says, so Disney Park in the morning, not the afternoon on Tuesday. Correct. By Tuesday afternoon, you're going to be inside. And you can even do like early afternoon and then head inside. If you're at the parks, it's going to be like a 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock time frame in the parks there. Yeah. Aaron, do you think the threat will be worse if it comes in a bit later? I've noticed Florida tornado outbreaks during El Nino years tend to happen after sunset. It's just the timing. I don't think that plays in significantly to impacts. But I would also say that if we're getting this kind of an atmosphere in the month of January, I think come February, March, we're really going to need to watch things. Yeah. Don't think my personal preference. I think it's good for you to use the graphics, show us the science of it. Maybe the world would understand that you all do more than just get the weather wrong. Oh, I agree. Well, Yukon, that's kind of the thing is I use Coffee Talk for my own time to be able to research weather, and if it gives people a different respect for what we do, then, I'll take that as well. All right. Jennifer's asking, were the Groundhog Day tornadoes in an El Nino pattern? Yes. They were. The Groundhog Day tornadoes, the 98 tornadoes. When you're in an El Nino pattern, given an atmosphere like this, you have to watch. And I would also add, the National Weather Service pointed something out, which I thought was, let me see if I can find this quote. I thought this was particularly interesting. I do not keep this kind of data, and I don't even know where they would have found it. I'm going to read to you part of their forecast discussion from earlier today, okay? And the forecast discussion, if you head to the National Weather Service office in Melbourne, it's free of charge. You can read it there as well. I mean, it's not free. You and I pay our taxes, hopefully, and thus you pay for it. Very warm afternoon temperatures combined with dew points in the upper 60s to near 70 will provide a surface-based environment that is more rich than events we've seen so far this season. Surface and mixed layer CAPE of 500 to 1,000 joules per kilogram should provide the necessary fuel to maintain the line of convection as it pushes inland from the Gulf of Mexico. Of greater concern is the highly unusual wind profiles forecast over the peninsula Tuesday evening, and that was what we were just looking at. There is generally good agreement amongst the global models and their respective ensemble suites that H85 through H70 flow, which is your height 850 to height 700 millibar flow, will average between 50 to 70 knots over the area, which is what I was just showing you, which represents the 99th climatological percentile. I would have never known that. I don't know where they get that, but that's the National Weather Service meteorologists. They have a different suite of data available to them than I do. Let me repeat that, though. Gusty winds just above our heads, 50 to 70 knots, which represents the 99th climatological percentile. The forecasted intense wind fields and shear suggests a sizable threat of damaging wind gusts and perhaps a strong tornado along the leading edge of the QLCS, the squall line. So they use the term sizable threat of damaging wind gusts and perhaps a strong tornado. Okay. So, the National Weather Service is paid for by our tax dollars, so they're not hyping. I mean, I've known a lot of these guys a good long while. I can tell you, they are not hype masters. So as I read that, I mean, I had an idea that it was going to say something to that point, but what caught my eye was the 99th climatological percentile. That's impressive, okay? That's impressive. Catherine, wondering if the schools may close on Tuesday if it is projected for the storms to start in the afternoon. I wouldn't think that we need school closures. I wouldn't think so. It's going to be afternoon, evening time frame. But because of that, look, I've never had a boss ask me to do this, so I'm not doing this for the wrong reasons, swear to you. But it may not be a bad idea to pull out your cell phone, okay, and to either download the WESH 2 mobile app or open it up and make sure your notifications are turned on. I get it. You don't want to get the notifications all the time and you turn it off. Totally fine. I can understand that. But maybe for this little weather event, not only will it let you know when the storms are approaching you, but it will also let you know when there's advisories. It's not a bad idea to have ways to be warned, okay? That's kind of where we're at. All right? So here's the 7-day forecast. Today, tomorrow, clouds around, some passing showers, clearing out little bit by little bit. But on Tuesday, yes, Tuesday's in red. It is a first warning weather day. Threat for scattered severe storms, including damaging winds, and yes, strong tornadoes. Don't love to see it, don't love to say it, but there we are. Yukon says National Weather Service Melbourne doesn't seem to hype. I follow their Twitter and they seem very matter-of-fact and accurate. They are. I mean, they're good people. Listen, there are some National Weather Service offices that are not great. Melbourne is great. Okay? Just call it as I see it. All right? All right. Questions, comments, concerns? We've got 2 minutes and 55 seconds until I have to go. All right. Questions, comments, concerns, anything. Rain totals for the storm. Of course, you're asking me for something I am ill prepared for. Let's see. Yeah, some spots could get 2 to 3 inches of rain. More than likely, it's looking like an inch or so. It's not going to be a long event. It's just going to be a powerful squall line, so it'll kind of come in real hard and fast and then clear out pretty quickly. All right. Particularly interested in Friday's weather. My mom's funeral service is 12 p.m. in DeLand. I'm sorry to see that, Bob. For right now, it's looking messy. It doesn't look at the moment like a big severe weather threat for Friday, but it does look like scattered showers and thunder showers. We'll get there. We'll get there. Mr. Mike, good morning over there in Oldsmar. We're going to be watching the weather on Tuesday, buddy. Yep. All right, 1:58 into the Today Show cut-in. Any other questions, comments, concerns? We'll be watching it together. Tuesday, first morning weather day. The National Weather Service says that the wind speeds up top, 99th climatological percentile. And again, if there's one takeaway, the forecasted intense wind field and shear suggests a sizable threat of damaging wind gusts and perhaps a strong tornado. All right, let's watch it and track it, my friends. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. See you on TV in a couple minutes.